Welcome to Oscar Sunday. I'm Austin Johnson.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And today we're talking about a Japanese classic from 1964, Woman in the Dunes, directed by Hiroshi Teshigahara. This guy, it's been on my radar, but I haven't ever, really dug into his work. He passed away in 2001. He's kind of a underground cinephile guy. Not everybody talks about him, but the people that do talk about him rave about him. And finally, we've broken that barrier here on Oscar Sunday. Woman in the Dunes is an amazing movie. Was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at the 37th Academy Awards, and then the following Academy Awards, 38th, Hiroshi Teshigahara was nominated for Best Director. So that happened a lot back in the day with the foreign films. I'm not quite sure what the reasoning is. It has something to do with when they came out here in the U.S., but they'll be split a lot. We've noticed that a lot with, there's old like Federico Fellini movies where his movie gets split into two different Academy Awards that happen to Kurosawa at times. So here we are again doing a foreign language film, and I gotta say, man, this was something else. This is a 2.5 hour intense movie, and I fucking loved it. We both went in blind, and I for one had a blast.
Yeah, you know what I like, what I don't like. I was dreading this one a bit. 2.5 hour Japanese film. I was like, oh boy. And then I thought, if this is a drama, it's going to take me a few days. But this is not, I don't get why this is labeled a drama on a lot of sites, including IMDb. This for me is a straight up psychological horror film about a man's sanity just unraveling under, imprisonment. Kept reminding me of The Lighthouse.
Yes.
I like seeing movies where I'm like, okay, Robert Eggers clearly watched this too. And I was dragged in. Like, I watched it in one sitting, and I was not expecting to do that. And it's a very odd film for 1964. You didn't see a lot of this shit in films like this, or films of this time. That's why I love watching foreign cinema from this era, because it's, as we saw when we did Rashomon, it's a completely different animal. We don't see, people were experimenting overseas with different, storytelling devices with, adult content. And over here in America, we were fucking neutering ourselves. So I love seeing, creativity abound. And this definitely counts.
For sure. I was like pleasantly surprised. It's got crazy good scores across the board. IMDb 8.5, on Letterboxd 4.4. I believe on Rotten Tomatoes it's still at 100%. So it's a huge movie, critically acclaimed, and I'm glad we both have seen it. Something that I've been wanting to do on this show for a long time, that I've always wanted to do on any podcast, really, is just kind of bullshit about what else aside from One in the Dunes that we've both been watching the past week. And I know we're on the same page with some stuff. Obviously, One in the Dunes. Obviously, we both are huge film fans, but we occasionally will watch TV. And when Mr. Vince Gilligan makes a TV show, you and I seem to get obsessed. Better Call Saul. If you're listening to this now, it's already Sunday, and tomorrow there will be episode 8 or
9.
9. Episode 9 will be out on tomorrow night. I cannot wait. But episode 8, we had about a month and a half gap there between, they split up the last season here of Better Call Saul. Good night. That episode 8 was unfucking real. And we don't really ever bring up TV shows on here, but I know we texted each other after the episode ended, and we were both like, holy hell. Like, Vince Gilligan has somehow made a show that is, in my opinion, on par with Breaking Bad or better. He's sticking this landing like nobody's business, and we know which characters live and which ones die. Mostly, we know Saul is going to keep going, right? We know Jimmy's going to be okay. We know Gus is going to be around, but for some reason, I still get this crazy feeling that, like, is Gus about to die? And that's power. That is like pure power. And this show, more than any other show that I've seen in recent years, is so cinematic. The way it's shot, the way it's written, the patience that it has with the characters is unbelievable. And I just wanted to kind of open the floor and talk about that. Maybe talk about some other movies you've been watching throughout this past week, because we don't stop. We have these podcasts. We do Filmgazm, we do Beyond the Bad, we do Oscar Sunday. But in between, we're also watching a lot of stuff for ourselves. And I wanted to kind of hear what you've been getting into.
Yeah, this was I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. I was actually just talking to somebody earlier about how impressed I am that Gilligan is able to add stakes to a prequel. Like, that's an incredible talent that very few writers have. I see there's so many prequels that don't have any tension because you know who's going to make it out. But somehow with this show, we know who's going to make it, but it still feels incredibly tense at every moment.
Yeah.
And even the characters, I love that we've gotten characters like, Lalo and Kim, who are just amazing and, worthy successors to this world. I didn't think Breaking Bad could be followed, but Vince, goddamn. I mean, I wondered, like, what is he going to do next? Is he going to stay in television? Does he have film ideas? Like, I want to follow this guy's whole career forever. I'm in awe just watching his words translated on screen. He's one of the greatest writers I've ever seen.
Yeah, I suck at that for sure. I think he's clearly found a niche here in New Mexico, and I would be okay with him staying there forever, and keep making different shows that are attached to Breaking Bad in some way, because he has an empire here. He has an empire of amazing characters, very realistic characters, very relatable scenarios, and somehow, some way, here we are. Better Call Saul's approaching its end, and with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul combined, that's 120 episodes that are almost all perfect. And I can't thank him enough. Again, I don't go on a limb and watch a lot of TV shows, but with him, it's different. I feel like I'm in good hands. I'm going somewhere. And even if I'm not totally going to be satisfied with the ending of the show, which I'm sure I am, I'm enjoying the ride so much. And that's how I felt about Breaking Bad. I was like, I'm having fun. Episode to episode, the space between the notes, I'm having a good fucking time. But what other movies have you been watching?
Well, I've been doing my own project. I've been buying a lot of DVDs over the past couple of years. Just stuff see.
No kidding.
Yeah, I know. It's a total surprise. But
you've only got like 1,000 of them. Yeah, it's fine.
I buy like 3 or 4 movies a week. It's a problem. But I have just a giant shelf of DVDs, most of which I've never watched. I've been stockpiling for the podcast or for, classics I see cheap that I'm like, I should have that. I'm going to be a film teacher at some point. I should own these movies. So I'm just building them up. And I realized, I'd like to actually watch some of these. So I'm just going from A to Z and just clearing them out. And I'm towards the end of A. This week I watched Amistad, Steven Spielberg's 1997 biopic of a group of Africans who were kidnapped by Spanish slavers, mutinied, killed their captors, ended up in America, and were put on trial as property. And it's a 2.5-hour courtroom drama starring Anthony Hopkins, Jaimin Hunsu, Matthew McConaughey, Morgan Freeman, Stellan Skarsgård, Pete Postlethwaite. It's an amazing cast. And a very enjoyable, very upsetting movie that I think is a good chunk of American history that not a lot of people know about. So definitely check it out. Worth it. And it's a Spielberg movie to cross off your list. So there you go.
Yeah, you don't have very many left to knock out for Spielberg.
I've worked my way through his career my whole life. I've only got I can count on one hand how many I've got left.
Yeah. So that's cool. You're nearing the end of that. We've said multiple times that Spielberg is probably the most important American filmmaker to exist. So that's always nice to knock out more of his stuff. I've been having kind of one of those movie fan moments where you're like, okay, why do I do this? What is the point for me? And what do I really want to accomplish while I'm watching movies? What's going to affect me the greatest? And so I've had kind of like a let me knock out some classics type vibe going on the past week. that has a lot to do with watching Woman in the Dunes, right? It's kind of like, okay, I'm in that mindset. I'm ready to watch some foreign movies, some heavy hitters. So I've watched a couple Tarkovsky movies, which I've never dug into his stuff before. I watched Ivan's Childhood, which is fantastic, 1962. That's on Criterion right now. Really, really, really good movie. Just uh, I don't want to spoil any of these movies. I'm glad. I think we're on the same page with that. I haven't seen Amistad, so I'm going to watch that soon. Ivan's Childhood is just a great example of the effects of war on a child. Really good. So that was my first Tarkovsky. Then I watched Mirror from 1975, which is straight up my alley. Weird as hell. Stream of conscious type movie. Reminded me of David Lynch for sure. Reminded me of Twin Peaks. Reminded me of Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet, all that jazz. So loved that one. Like really, really loved that one. I didn't quite understand most of it, but I loved it. The vibe was great. Some incredible shots going on. There's one specific shot of a woman who's like levitating that I couldn't believe was happening at a movie in 1975. So that was cool. And then I've been watching, fucking this director, Eyzaguirre. I've been watching some of his movies because he's got 4 on Criterion. About a year ago, I watched this documentary called Antonio Gaudi, which is that architect that has a bunch of really cool stuff in Spain, in Barcelona. And when I went to Barcelona as a teenager, I was like, man, this stuff looks so cool. We went to the Gaudi, like there's like a museum and a shop that you can go to and check out some of his stuff. And so I watched that documentary. Really cool. Had no idea that he also is the guy who did Woman in the Dunes, So this past week, I made that connection and I was like, okay, let me watch more stuff. So I watched The Face of Another from 1966. Great movie. Would be great for Filmgazm. I think it's a good pairing with Woman in the Dunes. Very psychological, very odd, very, very eerie at times, and a great score, great cinematography. And then I watched his directorial debut from 1962 called Pitfall. That movie is so cool, and I think, Connor, you would love this one. It's about a guy who, early on in the film, he dies, but he basically becomes a ghost, and he's watching how his death affects, the people around him. So cool. And of course, this domino effect happens and it has got some gnarly stuff going on in it and some really cool themes. Would also be a great Filmgazm. So I'm realizing that this guy, this director, is one of the masters of eerie, psychological, kind of borderline horror movies. And I'm like, this is like our stuff. This is like what we fucking get off on. So I'm really glad I took that dive into his work. All that stuff's on Criterion. So I've been having a blast kind of going back and watching this stuff. And then the most recent one I watched was one of the most, influential movies of its time, Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal. Man, good God. that's a crazy movie. Surprised it took this long for me to get to it, but I finally did. And I really wish it would have been out for some Oscars because I think it'd be a perfect movie for us. Got some really, really interesting religious, themes going on, and a unbelievable performance from Max von Sydow. So I'm glad I knocked that one out. And Bergman's not a guy I know much about, so felt good to go down Tarkovsky, Eyzaguirre, and Ingmar Bergman all in the same week, just knocking stuff out. So I've been having a great week, and Woman in the Dunes is kind of a catalyst for that. A movie that I'm going to watch this for Oscar Sunday, so I might as well knock out some big time stuff.
Well, when I read in the trivia for Woman in the Dunes that it was one of Tarkovsky's 10 favorite films, I was like, okay, that's why it's here. That's why we're doing it.
Yeah. Crazy. I didn't know that until I was watching, Mirror and Ivan's Childhood, and I was like, man, why have I not watched Tarkovsky? This guy is so far up my alley. He's obsessed with unconventional, stream of conscious, just like let things happen as they will. And man, it's rewarding. So yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh, perfect. This is great.
I did a political comedy double feature that I would very much enjoyed. I had a double feature DVD. I decided to watch both. First up was The American President, the perfect combo of Rob Reiner and Aaron Sorkin. Not Alan Sorkin. Who the fuck's that? But it was such a great look into what America should be politically. And
Mm.
that just made me so I felt like I was in a fantasy land. Like my whole review was like, I want to live in Sorkin's America because there's a sense of justice there. But, a political love story between Michael Douglas and Annette Bening was just delightful. Seeing Michael J. Fox as an overworked political analyst who just loses his fucking mind halfway through was great. That was a delight. And then I followed that with Dave, 1993 Ivan Reitman film, which was just so crazy. The president's an asshole and he has a stroke while banging an intern. So they go find a lookalike to stand in for the president until they can figure something out. And this lookalike's a really decent guy named Dave who decides to actually use his new position to help people. And it's Kevin Kline and Sigourney Weaver. Frank Langella is the bad guy. He plays such a great asshole. And that was just a great day. Just, living in a 90s political fantasy world where people actually gave a damn about the office they hold and actually wanted to use it to better the world. I've never lived in that world, so I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, it is. It's not a political movie. It's a fantasy movie. Yeah.
It felt like that. And that fucking made me sad. But the whole time I'm like, I like this movie. So
yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. I haven't seen Dave, but the other, obviously I'm a fan of because I love Sorkin. So, I'm glad you knocked that one out. I knew you'd like that. And Annette Bening is just the shit. And at this stage in her career, she's just wonderful and can't get enough of her. Her and Douglas together is a cool couple at that time in the 90s.
Well, I love Martin Sheen as the chief of staff, who's like, Michael Douglas's best friend, who's now calling him Mr. President. He's like, just call me Andy, please.
They're playing pool together and shit. Yeah.
And he has that moment where he's like, you're an idiot. What are you doing this for? And he's like, you called me Mr. President. Like, it's such a great, oh man, Aaron Sorkin is a fucking madman when it comes to dialogue. I don't know how he does. He can make the most boring shit absolutely fascinating. I'm in awe of that.
Yeah. He just takes the basics and then he takes two guys or two people and they walk down the hallway. They're talking, the walk and talk.
Oh,
and you're enamored. Yeah. Walk and talk is masterful from Sorkin. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad you knocked that out. That seems like we both knocked some stuff out right up our alley. And what better way? That's the kind of stuff we do in our own time aside from these shows. Just it feels really rewarding when we both get to do going in blind to a movie like Woman of the Dunes, and we get to kind of experience that. I'm doing this because it's for the show, but once you get halfway through, you're like, I would watch this anyway. This is really good. This is something I'm gonna have now in my brain forever, and that's awesome. I definitely this is not my last time watching Woman of the Dunes. I will rewatch this movie. I'm gonna try to buy it. Fucking amazing. Yeah, I know, but I'll find my way. I want to watch more stuff from this director, from Eyzaguirre. He's awesome. So, I think a cool way to kind of highlight this kind of filmmaking would be to do a top 5 Japanese films. So we both came up with a list. We haven't seen a crazy amount, so it wasn't this insane pool to choose from, but it feels like there's enough good stuff that we both care about to kind of talk about here and go back and forth. So I have some honorable mentions that I'll talk about later. I don't want to step on your list, so I ended up writing 9 down, and I had a really hard time narrowing them to 5. But I still wrote them down as honorable mentions. So I'll do that at the end. But man, whenever you're ready to do your 5, go ahead.
This one, yeah, I haven't explored a lot of foreign cinema. I'm still very much, a novice in that department. I don't want to pretend to be an expert. But Japanese film, in what I've experienced, tends to be my favorite when it comes to psychological distress.
Me too.
They know how to craft a horror film in ways no one else does. I don't know what they're doing differently, but it's art. So I have 1 drama and 4 horror films.
That's fantastic. I'm so ready. 1 drama and 4 horror. Good.
My number 5 is the most recent film on my list, last year's foreign language film winner, Drive My Car.
Nice. Hamaguchi. Yes.
Yeah, this was a gorgeous film and a very aware film about just how hard it is to grieve when you're in pain, like the main character of that film is. You know, when your wife cheats on you and then dies before she can say anything about it, and you knew, like, how do you handle that? And it's just watching a man kind of slowly come to terms with the fact that he can't. And it's a very poignant film, very funny at times, very dark, very sad. It's a good mixture of pretty much everything. And I'm glad it got Best Picture nomination. It was definitely a great film. So that's where I'd like to start.
Fuck yeah, man. Yeah, I love that movie. I was surprised when I saw that it was up for Best Picture. Surprised that it got the love that it got, because it is a 3-hour drama, like straight up drama. And I fell in love with it pretty quickly. I realized, okay, this is a cool pace. This is going to be patient. It's not going to introduce people without giving you something giving you something to chew on. So yeah, Raisuke Hamaguchi is a guy that I need to see more work of. He's clearly got a touch and a control. And from what I've heard, he had 2 movies come out last year, and a lot of people who are fans of his said the other one's better. And I'm like, okay, well then I need to see that, And he's got tons of movies. You go on his IMDb or his Letterboxd, and he's a pretty beloved guy. And I think we both were impacted enough by Drive My Car to want to go back at some point and watch more of his stuff.
The biggest problem with like accessing foreign cinema in this country is that there's never a spotlight on it. You have to find it yourself. It's never really, it doesn't get major theater releases often. It doesn't, you really have to like uncover it yourself and know these directors and follow them. And that kind of, that's hard work sometimes, especially when you've got, a full life. And I like that I found this guy. I definitely want to check out his other film. His pacing is so deliberate. The opening credits are like an hour into the movie. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
It was cool. This was a good one.
Yeah. I'm glad that's in your list. That's one of my honorable mentions. That's definitely one that I wanted to bring up at some point. So I'm glad you have it as your number 5. Man, yeah, that would be a really cool Oscar Sunday episode one day. Rewatch that monster of a movie and maybe watch more of his work. But you're right. I think part of the point of doing this top 5 is to shout out some Japanese, filmmakers and some stories that we both think are really important for people to hear about. Because it kind of separates the men from the boys. Foreign films in the United States. There's a lot of people that I know, and I'm sure that that would call themselves, fans of entertainment, fans of TV and movies, but they just are lazy when it comes to watching foreign films because you've got to read. It's not as easy to digest. You can't be on your phone. You can't, you got to be locked in if you really want to, be rewarded by the story. You and I love that. We love that our undivided attention has to go to the screen. That's like what we're all about, no matter what's going on. If it's English or Japanese or Chinese or French or, it doesn't matter. We want to give it that light of day. So I always find it interesting when I meet someone who likes movies and you kind of test the waters with them and see how far have you taken it? How far have you challenged yourself? Do you challenge yourself often, or are you always just watching what everybody else is, or what's English and English speaking and easy to get to, what's just on Netflix? I think you and I are in the minority where we want to chase things and see where they can take us. And it's a big part of doing this top 5, man. So I'm happy we talked about Drive My Car. It's a great movie. Great score. Jesus Christ. I listen to that score still a lot. I think it totally deserved what it got at the Oscars. My number 5 is probably my most popular movie on this list. Studio Ghibli. I know people have their different ways of saying it. The source of that word has like an amazing story that Miyazaki's father worked with aircrafts and the Ghibli/Ghibli, however you want to say it. was some kind of aircraft. I can't remember. I've listened to the story before, and it's got a really interesting, the source of it is really interesting. But my favorite Studio Ghibli movie is Princess Mononoke from 1997. I love a lot of them, and I can make a top 5 of just those movies for sure. Huge fan of. Again, I don't want to step on your list, so huge fan of a lot of those movies. But Mononoke is, in my opinion, undoubtedly the darkest of all of them, the most adult, and is at times just like horror. And I can't believe it's classified as an animated adventure fantasy family movie. It's like, well, if you really sit down and watch it, you're going to see some dark shit. So Miyazaki is one of the greatest creators we've ever had here on Earth. And I love that these movies have broken through that barrier of foreign language and have become, I'd say a lot of people have seen them because they have the English version, the dubbed version, but still the art, the animation that goes into it, these stories that are so far advanced from what we're used to seeing with our animated films on the Western part of the world. You're always rewarded when you watch Miyazaki at work, whether it be the art, the story, the characters, some of the dialogue, and how deep it goes, how weird it gets. Mononoke kind of stands out the most of all those, so I had to have it on my list. I love this movie. Regrettably, I missed a chance to see this in theaters back when we worked at Draft House together. Do you remember Eli, the dishwasher?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I ran into him not that long ago. We were talking about this. He was on like that list of people who got to choose a movie to screen on one of those like employee nights where it's like at midnight or 1 a.m, and employees are allowed to come for free to watch a movie that a different employee picked, which is a really cool thing. I felt like I was on that list for like the entire year I worked there, and I never got to actually choose something. Yeah. But this guy Eli chose Princess Mononoke, and it was just him and Michael, the guy who ran the he was the quote unquote projectionist. It was just them two in the theater watching Princess Mononoke, and I was like, man, I wish I would have kind of known more about that, and I wish I would have gone, because seeing this movie on the big screen would be so fucking cool. But I am happy that pretty much all these motherfuckers are on HBO Max right now, and they probably will be forever, as far as we know. So I'm really grateful for that. Some of the other ones, like Ponyo, some of the more kind of childish ones, are movies I've showed to my daughter, and she's fascinated by them. So there's kind of something for everybody with Studio Ghibli, and I respect that a lot. For me, it's Mononoke.
Yeah, I'm behind with Miyazaki. I've only seen two of his films, Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle.
Those are good ones to see.
Yeah, neither made my list.
Okay, so you don't have any Studio Ghibli. Yeah, Spirited Away. Good heavens, just an incredible feat. And Howl's Moving Castle is also amazing.
I have them all. Pretty much every film he's done is in what I call the book of Filmgazm, my endless list of potential Filmgazm episodes, because he is a guy we're going to explore on pretty much on both of these shows. I know that he's got the win for Spirited Away, and then he's got some nominations, so I'm sure that he's going to come up with your picks at some point.
Yeah, Spirited Away is when we'll go ahead and do Miyazaki. I would love for you to watch as many of them as you can, and I'll do the same. I'll watch the ones I haven't seen and rewatch stuff, and then we could do maybe a top 5 Miyazaki, top 5 Studio Ghibli. That would be so neat. But yeah, Spirited Away is definitely the big one, the mecca of reaching all the corners of the world, and everybody loves that movie.
Yeah. Well, I remember it was very special when we went to the Academy Museum in LA. They had a Miyazaki exhibit.
Yeah.
That we were not allowed to take photographs in. It was one of the rotating exhibit, and we got to see his early drawings, a lot of his storyboards. It was impressive. It was really cool. And he is a guy who I really want to just immerse myself in. So yeah, I'll do it. I got no like beef or anything. I just haven't done it.
Yeah, I know. I think sometimes with Oscar Sunday specifically, it's like you're waiting for that opportunity to pounce on certain movies, and it's like I think it's kind of up to me to put it on the schedule.
You're not
and,
wrong. You're not wrong.
we'll go ahead and knock it out because Spirited Away is the only foreign language, animated winner. And it was the second. It was at the second ceremony that they did Best Animated Feature. So it was Shrek and then Spirited Away. Pretty cool. Pretty cool that it did that kind of 1-2. And I believe after that was Finding Nemo. So
yeah,
crazy. You got DreamWorks, Studio G, and Pixar.
Yeah. Fuck you, Ice Age.
Yeah, I love Ice Age.
I do too.
There's like 9 of them now though, and I can't keep up.
Yeah, it's wild. I figured, Ghibli was going to pop up on yours. I had a feeling that was going to happen. There's another director I know is going to pop up on yours, and I'm just waiting for it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple you could probably guess. I mean,
There's one I know for sure we're both going to have here.
Yeah. I think we'll have one. Well, maybe. Yeah, we'll definitely have one overlap. I feel like because it was a Filmgazm moment.
Yeah. It's popped up on a few of your lists.
Yeah. All right. What's your number 4? This is good.
My number 4 is about as far from a kids movie as you can get, while still having kids in it, and that is 2000's Battle Royale.
Nice. Okay.
This is the film that the Hunger Games ripped off, and nobody really seemed to care.
Yeah. No.
In a dystopian future Japan, kids are rounded up and forced to kill each other for victory, in which their families will be taken care of. I think that's the prize. It's been a long time since I watched this, but it was impactful. And it's just a vicious bloodbath watching these kids completely throw their innocence away because they have no choice. And the kids who try to hold on to the fact that this is wrong are like the first wave to go. And the actress who plays Gogo in Kill Bill Part 1, this is where she was discovered by Quentin Tarantino, because she plays a fucking nut in Battle Royale. But this is a Filmgazm waiting to happen. This is one of the most insane, like, you could never do this in the United States. At least we thought so, unless it's a young adult book kind of movies. That really does bother me, that it's the same
too.
fucking story and nobody cared. But I think it's a great movie. I think it's a frightening movie. It's fucked up. It's crazy. It's got a great villain, and it's just an unforgettable experience.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I didn't even think about that one. Also haven't seen it in a long time. That might have something to do with it, but Jesus, yeah. Talk about an idea that was stolen, and totally westernized.
That happens so much. You can just, if you are going to steal creatively, steal from a foreign book or a movie, no one here is going to fucking notice.
Yeah, even something as big as Infernal Affairs, The Departed is like, just, we're just going to take that from you and make it. We'll just throw Leo and Matt Damon in there and a little bit of Jack Nicholson, and it's ours, and it's Best Picture winner. It's like, okay.
There's currently a remake of Train to Busan in the works called like Last Train to New York, but does anybody want that? Everyone, like, Train to Busan transcended continents. Everyone loved that movie.
Yeah, it's a great film. Yeah. Oh, love that one. Yeah, it's frustrating, and it happens. So I'm glad you chose something that's literally a movie that happened and then happened again. And not only happened again, but happened 4 times. The Hunger Games needed 4 movies to tell their fucking story. And I like the second one because it's got a lot of Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he's amazing in it as kind of the games master. But Battle Royale is the greater film. I'd love to read that novel. Sure, it's fucking crazy. My number 4 is I'm curious to see to know if you remember. I think I wrote a review for this movie, I don't know, year and a half ago, called Branded to Kill from 1967. This is so far up my alley. It's not even funny. It's about a guy. He's a hitman, and some shit goes wrong. He finds out that another hitman is coming after him, and it's just a battle of who can last longer, who cares more, who wants it more, and who can get a little bit more dangerous, a little bit more crazy. Some great shots, some great performances, directed by Seijun Suzuki. Just so much fun. It's an hour and a half, just a fucking wild ride. Doesn't really stop once it gets going. And I love movies like that. I love action movies that just kind of just take it and fucking run with it. So crime dramas in Japan, and really in this part of the world altogether, China, There's some Korean ones too. They just fucking get it. They get the pacing. They understand. Go, 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 go. We're going to talk about a guy soon, a director soon that really understood that. And I it's my favorite part of this cinema from this part of the world is the pacing and the unrelenting. Sometimes these guys, they make movies, 2-3 times a year, so it's like, I'm sure they don't even remember sometimes some of the stuff they shot, whereas in this part of the world, the Western part of the world, guys will take breaks for 5 years, 6 years and sit on that shit forever. And I think there's pros and cons to both, right? You get a guy like maybe a Tarantino or a Paul Thomas Anderson who's like, you really let that movie breathe and become a part of pop culture. But I also respect the nature of some of these guys, some of these, Japanese and Chinese directors who are like, no, let's just go, go, go. Big part of it is, the studios and, that the dollar game is just different. But I respect that a lot. I respect these guys who just nonstop go. And Suzuki is a guy who made a lot of stuff, and Brandon to Kill is an unforgettable ride. So I think you would love it, man. It's an hour and a half. I believe it's on Criterion right now. That's where I watched it back, again, year and a half ago. It's good shit.
Branded to Kill. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. That sounds exciting.
Yeah. The main character is just so much fun. He's got the classic sunglasses on at all times, just hanging out, just fucking not the greatest hitman in the world, but he's also got, he's got some stuff in his bag. So yeah, I'm into it. I love movies about guys who are just kind of in the criminal underworld and are just kind of sleazy. I love stuff like that. So Brandon to Kill, good stuff. 1967.
It is interesting to look at the way films are made overseas versus here, where it's very much a time is money mentality. And over there, like in certain cultures, like especially in Japan, it's just, crank it out, like make your mark. And I respect that. I respect the grind.
Yeah. Let it fly. Yeah. Just go, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. Unreal. My number 3 is considered one of the scariest movies of all time. 2002's Ju-on, The Grudge.
Yes.
One of the few cases where the remake was helmed by the same director, Takashi Shimizu, who had to tone it down because Americans just, we can't handle shit like the Japanese can. But the original movie is a testament to fear. Like, seriously, that movie is fucking scary. It's about a woman who takes a job as a caregiver in a house that is incredibly haunted and taints anybody who walks through it, regardless of whether or not you live there, you're visiting, you're delivering the mail. If you walk through those gates, you are cursed.
Game over. And
that's fucking scary. And this creepy ass, like bendy ghost, like pale black hair, giant mouth. Like there's a scene where the main character is laying in bed and she lifts up her blanket and the ghost is right fucking here, like in her face, just staring at her. How do you not just shit yourself? These movies are fucking terrifying. And it was a toss up between this and Ringu. But Ringu, it has that one scene where the girl walks out of the television, which is mind-bendingly scary. But that is about it. Ju-on maintains that throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. That intensity. Yeah.
And I wasn't going to make a top 5 Japanese without shouting out one of those films, which has kind of represented Japanese horror on the global stage for quite some time. Yeah,
that's a really good point. I figured you'd have this. And this is prime time for our pod for Filmgazm. This is like
spoiler alert, October.
Yeah. I mean, this is perfect for Filmgazm. So great pick. 2002, right? You said?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2002. When's the last time you watched it?
That was one of the first movies I ever watched when Caleb and I started filmgazm.com as a movie review website. So it's been almost a decade.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, it's time for a rewatch.
We double featured Ringu and Ju-on in one night and didn't sleep that much.
Yeah, I understand that. I love that though. I love picturing, that 2014, you guys just inhaling what you can, and getting it on the site and hanging out, watching movies. So what a cool double feature to remember forever. My number 3 is a movie that we did on this podcast. Episode, I want to say 24. Let's see. We had done this movie called Z from 1969. I believe that was our first foreign movie that we did. And then shortly after, I was like, let's do Kurosawa. Let's do a Kurosawa movie. Let's fucking, talk about this guy. I want to talk about him again because we know so much more now. And I've seen so much more of his work since then. I own some of his stuff. So love this guy to death. Akira Kurosawa is probably the most acclaimed Japanese director to ever live. Not probably, he is. He's the man. He's the fucking man. I think there were times where he was misunderstood when he was alive, and then when he passed away, it became this phenomenon. The Kurosawa movies. Here's a guy who made movies non-stop for decades, and got like better and then worse and then better and then worse, and would come out with a movie in the 80s that was like as good as anything he had ever done. But my favorite, the most like precise and my favorite, is Rashomon. I love this movie. It's so good. One thing I love about Kurosawa is he does not fuck around. He gets to the point. There are movies that are long of his, some very popular ones like Seven Samurai, but a lot of his movies are like an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, and he gets to the point. And this movie is so fucking dreamlike. It's like a fever dream, this movie. And at the center of it is my favorite Toshiro Mifune performance. And that guy is something to behold. I've never seen someone so masculine and so dominant on the screen. That guy's a freak of nature. So I had to have Kurosawa at some point. There's a lot of movies that I love of his. It was probably between this and I really like Hidden Fortress, and I really like Drunken Angel. Really like that movie. What he was doing in the 40s, 50s, and 60s is beyond me. Love that guy. You can find a lot of his work on Criterion and HBO Max. And I suggest people get to that. He's someone you will not regret going down that alley and going down, his resume, his filmography, because there's something there for everybody, and he worked with Toshiro like 50 times. So you're always going to get this really cool actor, director duo with those guys. And it's really special. So yeah, I love this movie. It's really cool to look back that we did this. We were so ambitious to do this movie. But I remember my thoughts then, and those thoughts remain the same about this story. And I love how it has kind of the vantage point, has different, perspectives on what's happening. I've always thought that's a really cool, plot device. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of this one. And I know we will do Kurosawa again on this show someday.
I've been watching a lot of Simpsons lately. And
I do the same thing all the time. Yeah.
There was an episode where they were going to Japan, and Homer was upset, and Marge tried to console him. Is like, "What? You love Japanese culture? You liked Rashomon?" And Homer goes, "That's not how I remember it." And I was laughing my ass off. Like, that's one of the best jokes.
Yeah.
Only the film buffs are gonna laugh at that one.
Yeah. Well written. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that's good.
Yeah. Did you see that? Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I knew I was gonna let you take the Kurosawa baton because I've got a lot more work to do. I liked Rashomon a lot. I liked the Hidden Fortress. Seven Samurai kind of underwhelmed me, and
yeah,
that didn't feel right to me. So I feel like I have more work to do before I can fully appreciate a film like that. So I want to.
Totally understand. Yeah, totally understand that. I think we both watched Rashomon, Hidden Fortress, and Seven Samurai like that week. Like kind of like we did like a gauntlet of Kurosawa. And those are always, Hidden Fortress is like the movie that Star Wars is like, okay, there's a lot going on there. And those three are kind of looked at as some of his biggest stuff, right? And it was cool to go down all those movies. I think what would be really cool to do is he was nominated for Best Director once, and that was for 1985's Ran. I think it'd be really cool to do that movie and maybe do the same thing, like watch a few Kurosawa movies and just keep stacking them up. Because I love the guy. He also won an honorary award in 1990. So he's a guy we could talk about Oscars. We could talk about him on Filmgazm. He just has that kind of stuff in his bag all over the place. There's so many films you can choose from to talk about. So, God, I love that guy so much. His mind, I love reading his quotes. His quotes about cinema and about storytelling are so inspiring, and love Kurosawa. Always a good chance to shout him out anytime I can.
Funny you mentioned that Hidden Fortress inspired Star Wars, because like Lucas wanted Toshiro Mifune as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like he was his first choice.
God, can you imagine?
But he turned him down. But yeah, what would Star Wars look like today if Mifune had been Obi-Wan? I'd
be a fan. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd love it.
Yeah. I'd be like, the movie's fine, but Toshiro? Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, cool stuff. But yeah, Kurosawa is I'm not ready to call myself a Japanese film buff until I can fully appreciate Kurosawa.
Yeah, he's the guy people talk about. Yeah.
So now we're getting into the nitty gritty, and
top two.
Top two. It's probably no surprise at all, but my number two is one of the most depraved, violent, vicious films I've ever seen. Ichi the Killer.
That's my number two as well.
Yeah. It's time to talk Takashi Miike.
Yes, Takashi Miike is the guy we've been beating around the bush with. Takashi Miike. This is one of the most ambitious, fucked up directors I've ever fucking witnessed in my life. And Ichi the Killer is the most depraved movie I've ever seen.
This fucking psycho knows how to make a cinematic experience. I did not, going into Ichi the Killer for the first time, was like, I had so many people warn me, like, buddy, you gotta like buckle up. This is not your grandma's action movie. So and watching it was just like watching like a snuff film at times. It's the most vicious shit. It's just so much evil and so much psychosis just mixed into this weird ass action movie that is just like mesmerizing and also incredibly hard to watch.
Yeah.
It was, we were immediately like, what the fuck was this?
But I loved it.
But yeah, you can't stop. Like, it's been a few years and I can't, like, at least once a week, something will pop in, like, remember that shit in my head? It's just one of those things that's going to stay here forever.
And I'm honestly okay with it. This is one of those, I probably have 10 to 15 movies that are in my brain. And this is definitely one of the ones in my brain that is like, man, I'm weird for liking that, and if I admit that I like it to the wrong person, I might come across as a complete, fucking psychotic freak. But fuck it. If you know, and with Ichi the Killer, yes, it's the most depraved. It's torture porn. It's weird. It's nasty. But man, oh man, is the story completely bonkers, and it's involving drug dealing and drug users and these gangsters that are so relentless. And some of like my favorite performances from any of these movies that we've talked about are from Ichi the Killer. I really respond to this movie. I gave it a 10. I still give it a 10. I love this movie. And I don't really care. We paired this with Audition back when we were doing Filmgazm. We were doing like an episode and then a bonus. We were like, let's knock out Audition, which is seen as this, whoa, you're really crossing a certain line of weird and dark and creepy and fucked up. But we were both kind of like, yeah, Audition, it's the, there's like an hour that goes by where you're like, okay, what's the big deal? And then stuff happens towards the end and you're like, that was fucked up. But Ichi the Killer is the whole movie. The whole movie is fucked, like so hard. And I think we both were surprised that Ichi the Killer was the one that, quote unquote, scared us more. I know we both don't really get scared necessarily, but we were freaked out. We were like, this is weird. Yeah. And it's even weird. It's even odd, stranger that we both responded to it. We both had a good time talking about it on the episode. So I don't know what that says about us, but I don't really care. I love a lot of dark movies, and sometimes that's like what you need to just get away from whatever. And Takashi Miike is that guy. He's the guy who can deliver that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm so glad we both have this this movie. Kakihara is one of my favorite movie characters of the century. So yeah, huge fan. I love when his mouth opens. He's got the weird cuts that the Joker wish he had, right? he actually has it when he opens up. His mouth is just like this. He's like this weird. He's almost like Venom, and it's just so fucking cool. Yeah, Ichi the Killer, man. I knew this was coming.
Fun fact: I recently discovered that Tadanobu Asano, the guy who plays Kakihara, is in the MCU.
He's a Marvel legend. Yeah, he's in a bunch of Marvel movies. Yeah,
he's Hogan, one of the Warriors 3. I had no fucking clue.
Yeah,
Jesus. Oh, freaky. Yeah, this is if you're gonna watch Ichi the Killer, there's really nothing I can say to prepare you for that. It's just you're gonna be uncomfortable for a couple hours, but it's worth it.
Yeah. I think I don't just recommend this movie to anybody, but if you like want to push your senses when it comes to movies, I do think this one is one to look out for and watch. I think it's on Shudder right now. I mean, it's kind of like a why not if you're a fan of the genre and horror and psychological crazy shit.
Yeah.
What's great about this is this movie involves gangsters, right? And it involves an enforcer essentially who doesn't know what pain is, and he's willing to go to the greatest lengths to feel pain. And that finale between those two, Kakihara and Ichi, is amazing. Is like so rewarding and such a great way to cap off a fucked up movie. Yeah, God, I love this one. One of my favorite kills of all time is when Ichi slices that guy down the middle with his heel. He has that blade on his heel, slices the guy, and it looks ridiculous. It looks very 2001. Doesn't look like they spent a lot of money on the effects, but it's just like funny. It's like, oh my God, did you see that? Like it's that kind of stuff. So I know you and we relate in that way, where sometimes the fucked up is like what we are like, giggling about. It's not for everybody. I totally get it. And I've read letterbox reviews that are just destroying this movie. I get it. It's depraved as fuck. It's straight from hell. And I understand that. But I think you and I, obviously, it's our number 2.
Well, I think it's a film that, requires a certain sick, dark, wicked sense of humor. Because it's so over the top. It's like a live action Looney Tunes with blood and gore. Like, it's like a dark circus. It's not trying to be, dark. It's trying to be almost like so insane you can't help but laugh. So you need that kind of mentality going into films like this, where you're not going to call your congressman and try to get it banned. Like, you're going to just sit there and be like, what the fuck? Like, with some buddies.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right, my friend. Yeah. I love it. I love that we both have this. Shout out to Takashi Miike, man. I'm always down to watch more of his stuff. I know our guys, Caleb and Josh, who are big horror fans. They both, especially Josh, really respects Takashi and knows his stuff about him. So Josh inspired me to watch more Takashi. I ended up watching this movie that I love called Rainy Dog, which is a lot less, fucked up. And that's what Josh was saying. Josh was like, hey, he's capable of making family movies as well as psychotic movies like Ichi the Killer. So yeah, put some respect on Takashi Miike's name. That guy, there's years where that guy made like 7 movies. There's a stretch from 2000 to 2002 where he's credited for 15 productions.
God damn.
Who does that?
I don't know of any American filmmaker who's even capable of that. That's wild.
Yeah, he's nuts, man. So yeah, I love it. I'm honestly lost on what your number 1 is.
It may surprise you.
Okay.
But it's something that I've thought a lot about over the years, and I had to just give this movie its props for what it did accomplish, and that is Audition.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah. Respect.
Takashi Miike once again.
Cool. Yeah, that double feature has come a long way for you.
It fucking has. That was one of the most significant moments of our show's history. That fucking weekend for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think about it often. Yeah.
Yeah. Audition is such a multifaceted film. It's so layered. It's a rom-com until the last 20 minutes where it turns into hell itself. And very few films have ever done anything like that. It's widely regarded next to Ichi as Takashi Miike's masterpiece. I first heard about it on Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments when I was a kid, and it's the one film that they didn't show any like long clips from because Bravo said absolutely not. Like it was too much for them. And the way people talk, the way like Rob Zombie said it made him feel dirty. I'm like, what is this thing?
I gotta know.
Yeah. And it just freaked me out as a kid. I was like, just the mere mention of like, don't even talk about that movie. And then I grew up and I'm like, I need to see this. And we used the podcast as an excuse for that. And while it was a bit underwhelming at the time, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, this fucking thing is brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you don't know what's coming. I mean, I wish to God I didn't know what it was coming.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, no, I love that movie. I give that one an 8 or a 9 and Each of the Killer a 10. I like the, more wacky style. But Audition is probably the better movie and is the one I would recommend to people because it is thrilling. Once you get to that, you're like, oh my God, this went to a different level of filmmaking within seconds. And some great performances in that movie too. Subtle, and then wild. And I love that about it.
Well, it's got like some of the most horrifying moments I've ever seen. Like just that scene where, they just met and he says he's going to call her and it pans over to her waiting, like staring at the phone, waiting for that phone call. And you just see that bag move in the background and you're like, what the fuck was that? And it cuts away. You're like, what just happened? And you find out later there's a fucking like half cut up dude in there.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. It's such a mind-bending descent into hell because you don't know that that's where the staircase leads.
Correct.
I've never seen that kind of film before. And it's a film that never left my head. And I recently found it at Goodwill for like $2. So I'm like, I'm going to take that. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. I was like, that's mine.
Yeah. Audition, baby.
Yeah. So it's a film that I think represents the best that Japanese cinema has to offer when it comes to genre films and just creative filmmaking. So I wanted that to be kind of the figurehead of my list.
I like that. Well, that's really cool. So have you watched it since we did that episode?
I have not. I'm waiting for honestly for Halloween.
Okay. Yeah, for the right moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey mom, you want to watch Audition? Get the family together. I remember when I watched these two movies, Audition and Each of the Killer. Each of the Killer was on Shudder when we did it for the show. Audition was also on Shudder. They had a lot of Takashi Miike films. Okay. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because I remember watching these, and my now wife Brianna was like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "Oh, just doing it for the podcast,"
I'm so glad that she was cool with that because like that move, those movies could have ruined your relationship.
Yeah, but she knew what she was in for.
That's good. Yeah, but like if it wasn't somebody cool, you would have called me like, buddy, like what the fuck?
What's the bet? One of my favorite things about her, as far as movies go, is her favorite. Same as me. Like when it's good and it's hitting, horror is our favorite. Both of our favorite genres in movies, and that's like what we both get along. When we're watching a horror movie, we're having a lot of fun, and it's like a cool thing that we get to do, like to bond. And this is a bridge too far for her, and I get it. I totally get it. It's fucked up. Some fucked up shit. Takashi Miike is something else, man. I would love to talk about him more. I do think sometimes, like when we do find something that affects us this way, like Ichi the Killer in Audition, it's like, why not just dive deep into this guy and let's do more shit on him, and let's let's because I think it's more fun to do it together, you know, or to do it as a group, you know, the whole Filmgazm group. I think it'd be really cool for all of us to do an episode on a Takashi Miike film where we all are like, because it's cool. It's like a group project where you're like, how does everybody react to? It's a social experiment. How does everybody react to the craziness that is Takashi Miike? So I love that. Your 1-2 is Takashi. That's really cool, and I love that name so much, Takashi. I love that name. I love pictures of that guy. He seems like the coolest dude ever. You know, he just likes to make weird shit, but also likes to make family musicals. You know, so hats off to him, man. I don't think here in the United States we have anybody like that. So he's kind of a treasure. Can you guess what my number one is?
I have a feeling.
What do you think?
I have a feeling it's Woman in the Dunes.
It is Woman in the Dunes.
Ah.
God damn, I love this movie. I've been trying to hide it a little bit, but it's hard. Oh boy, this is right up Austin Street. And you know, I want to shout out some other movies real quick before I get into Woman in the Dunes and before we give awards out to it. There's a movie from 1953 called Gate of Hell. Nominated for I think a couple Oscars. I want to say costume design, maybe production design. So I'd love to do that movie on the show one day. Just really, really good. That's another one I watched in Criterion when I first got it. Kiraneko from 1968. Say, really, really interesting black and white horror film. Very eerie, using a lot of really interesting, you know, Japanese tropes that I think a lot of people assume are going to be in all Japanese movies. You got people flying around, you know, fucking gliding, and it's just really creepy. Reminded me of, you know, like when Toni Collette is going like that in Hereditary. I felt that a lot in Kiraneko. Definitely revolves around women kind of being empowered and taken over. So yeah, really like that movie. Another Criterion one that I watched. Pretty much all of these Japanese movies I watch on Criterion because they got a lot of cool shit. We mentioned Drive My Car because it's your number 5. I love that movie, so I'm glad you had it. And the last one would be Afterlife from 1998. That's a movie I talked about not that long ago on our A Simple Plan episode. It was something I thought about for my top 5 1998. Afterlife is like a documentary, but it's not, and it's about people who are kind of in a limbo state. Really, really interesting. Some amazing dialogue. So yeah, I love those movies. But Woman in the Dunes just completely leveled me, and it made me feel pretty damn good that I chose this movie weeks ago. I chose this a long time ago. I have a huge list of all the ceremonies that we haven't talked about yet, and I'll go on the internet. I'll kind of think about what would be interesting for me and Connor to do. Which years are cool to do a Best Picture showdown? Like Platoon last week just made the most sense. It's like, yeah, 1986. We could both talk about Platoon. That's great. And when I was looking at 1964, 1965, 38th Academy Awards specifically, because we did Dr. Strangelove way back in the day. We've talked about that ceremony, but we've never brought up the 38th Academy Awards, which is a lot of 1965 movies, the year that Sound of Music won. And Woman in the Dunes just kind of popped out at me, and I was like, wait a minute, I've seen that before. And then I, you know, read about it and said, okay, let's just go for it. It's 2.5 hours, but let's fucking go for it. I think it'll be rewarding. And here we are. It's my favorite Japanese movie I've ever seen. An instant 10 for me. 5 stars on Letterboxd type stuff. There's stuff in here where the camera is doing exactly what I wish it was doing every scene. And that's the most rewarding thing when I watch movies, is if the cinematography and the cinematographer and the director are on the same page and they both know what's going on, and they clearly had an awesome vision. You know, when they're starting to get physical, our 2 main characters, and they're wiping sand off each other, and the camera is up in their space. I'm kind of, it's almost like a good repulsive feeling that I have, where I'm like, whoa, like I feel like I shouldn't be here. I feel like this is too personal. I feel like I'm in their space. But I love stuff like that. I love, you know, my favorite cinematographer is Emmanuel Lubezki, and he does that so well. He gets in people's face, gets in people's grills, and does first person type stuff so well. And this movie is a tremendous feat in that regard. And I loved what it stands for because it's kind of about everything and about nothing. It's a movie that you could call complex or you could call really simple. And that's kind of my favorite shit. So Woman in the Dunes, this felt really cool that this just happened to be what the episode is based around, because I love all these movies we've talked about. Your list, my list, I love these movies. But above all is Woman in the Dunes, and a movie that I will carry with me forever. So yeah, 1964, absolute classic. Check it out on Criterion, HBO Max, I believe. So not HBO Max, just Criterion.
If you don't have Criterion, you can rent it on Prime or Apple TV. But other than that, like that's pretty much the exclusive way to watch this.
I'm telling you, man, these people, got to get Criterion. It is like, I know I'm biased because it's kind of the stuff that's up my alley. But there's stuff like this, these classic they're classic, but they're underground classic. It's not a classic in the sense of Sound of Music where millions and billions of people have seen it. It's more of like the people who have, they know what's up. They know it's a damn good film.
Well, I view Criterion mostly as like, there's certain movies that have been classics for so long. We all know they're classics. There's like the 40th edition, the 40th anniversary edition, 50th anniversary edition. There's so many ways to get these movies. But Criterion, I feel like, protects the movies that are like not as well known, but worth saving. And I respect that big time.
Yeah. Good point. It's so cool that, a Criterion, you could buy, stuff from obviously all the decades, but you can buy stuff that, is a Fellini movie, or, could be a classic French movie. You could be buying Cleo from 5 to 7, or you could be buying Woman in the Dunes, or you'd be buying an old 20s film that they've just been passionate about. I love that.
Well, and also like take for instance Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder.
Yeah.
The Criterion edition is the only way you can buy that film in the United States. So like that means something. That's that's accessibility, and I love that Criterion is made these films available to a wider audience, because without Criterion, I don't know if I ever even would have heard of Woman in the Dunes.
I might have not. I don't know. I mean, I think I would have at some point seen it through the Oscars. It's like, oh, this is up for director and foreign language film. That's rare for a Japanese director. It literally is rare. It's as rare as it can get. He was the first one, and I think still the only one. So
I wasn't the guy to Drive My Car, wasn't he up?
Oh, Hamaguchi was probably up for Drive My Car. You're probably right. This past year, was he?
I'm gonna go ahead and
I can't remember who's up for who won Best Director this past year.
That was Jane Campion, I believe.
Oh yeah, Power of the Dog. Duh, yeah. Not duh, because it lost Best Picture, but yeah, Hamaguchi probably was up. You're probably right.
He was up, yes.
There you go. I wonder if anybody else has.
Well, Kurosawa,
1985, ran. Yeah. I'm trying to think now if anybody else has accomplished that. That'd be an interesting just little list to make. I love stuff like that. So he's the first.
Yes.
Teshigahara is the first. And it took almost 40 ceremonies to get there. So that's, that'll happen. What's surprising is that Kurosawa doesn't have more, that it didn't happen before 1980 fucking 5. The guy had been working for 4 years.
Well, I might be reading into it a bit, but I mean, we hold fucking grudges in this country. And, after 1945, I wonder if, Japanese film, Russian film considered taboo in America, considered anti-American. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah, I think that's why Tarkovsky wasn't touched much. That he's more of a guy who later on people were like, holy shit, this guy's stuff is really good.
Yeah.
Especially in this part of the world. I'm not speaking for everybody, across Europe and Asia, but I think people catch on a little late, and they, like you said, hold grudges. So that's a good point. I think you may be right. But this is great. This is a fucking blast talking about Japanese cinema with you, man. So go ahead and recap your list, and then we'll do some awards for Woman in the Dunes, which I can't wait for.
Yeah, sounds good. My number 5 is Drive My Car. Number 4, Battle Royale. Number 3, Ju-on, The Grudge. Number 2, Ichi the Killer. And number 1, Audition.
Beautiful, beautiful. Number 5 is Princess Mononoke. Number 4 is Branded to Kill. Number 3, Rashomon. Number 2, Ichi the Killer. So cool. We both have that. Number 2. And number 1, Woman in the Dunes. So let's give some awards out to Woman in the Dunes. We've got the Quentin Tarantino Award for best quote of the movie. Some crazy, crazy good dialogue in this one. We have the Ennio Morricone for the best music moment. Again, amazing score. So that was very difficult. The Philip Seymour Hoffman Award, which is really between two people that are on the screen pretty much the entire time. And then the Roger Deakins Award for the best scene of the movie. So I'll let you take it away with your Tarantino.
This is an interesting scene. I chose this mainly because of what immediately precedes the dialogue.
Okay.
And it's a scene where he's our entomologist is reading a comic in the paper and just burst into this ungodly cackle. And you're like, oh, okay, he's finally snapped. And then he just immediately stops laughing and just goes, I won't be made a fool of. I refuse to die like a dog.
Yes.
And it's like,
I love that line.
What a crazy, like 180 turnaround there. Like, this man's losing his fucking mind. And, you know, I get it. I'm amazed he held on to it as long as he did. But I was really impressed with that bit of scene there. Just from, laugh to shutting it off to not going to happen like this. And it was impressive.
Yeah, isn't he great in this movie? He delivers some of this stuff. It's like hilarious. You're like, it's very much. When you text me about The Lighthouse, I was like, yes, it's very much like so dark that it's funny at times. That the dismay. It's like you have to laugh sometimes.
You almost can't believe this is happening. That like he's trapped in a like 20-foot sand pit, and everyone's just laughing at him, and he's like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like the whole time he's like, are you kidding me? And you're like with him, you're like, yeah, what the fuck is this? Like, why is he here? And it's such a strange film, but you get it. It's powerful.
Yeah. I think that's what I responded to most was I never felt like it was over my head or that it was too pretentious or anything for me. It was never like up its own ass, which I think some people would look at like the poster and be like, no thanks. I think people, judge a book by its cover, quite frankly. And I think I did the same thing until I started watching it. I was like, oh, I'm like in for like a straight up psychological thriller here. And these two people who are stuck, one of them chooses to be stuck essentially, and the other one is trapped. And then towards the end of the movie, you're like, oh my God, like he's completely done a 180 here. God, so good. My favorite bits of dialogue are when it's them two kind of talking philosophically about why she does what she does and him kind of making fun of her. She's like, well, I have to do this. If I don't work today, the sand will fall in through the roof and it will ruin my home. I love when she talks about the neighbors. Like there's, 3 houses over, there's this situation happening. You're like, this is like a whole community of these people who are stuck in the dunes. I love how he starts losing his mind and is talking about wanting to see water because he's going crazy. I love that stuff. I crack up at that. But my favorite bit from him, from his dialogue, is when he's talking about he's just kind of ranting, and it made me laugh so hard, but also just made me think and maybe kind of like pause the movie and be like, wow, this is something else. This is situational perfection from Teshigahara. He says, we could, for example, think of some way to exploit the lure of the dunes. My fascination with the sand is what brought me here, after all. I'm serious. That postcard salesman probably came for some reason. Advertise the area, develop it into a tourist resort, make the sand work for you, not against you. I just started cracking up. Like, this guy, he's so off the edge that he's thinking of like this other guy, this salesman who got trapped at some point. He's thinking about his reality and thinking about like, I wonder how crazy he got and how crazy I'm getting. It reminded me, honestly, I thought of Seinfeld. I thought of like George Costanza just kind of like going on these rants and like, what are you talking about? Like, dude, like focus here. But that's some of my favorite stuff in characters is when they their personality comes out so fresh and so hard because of the situation they're in. And that happens a lot with Nikki, with our main character. Essentially, his personality comes out because he's forced to. He's like forced his hand, and I love that about this movie. So good.
It also is so wild to see a character be like, okay, so clearly I'm going to lose my mind at some point.
Yes.
What's that going to be like? And
Yeah.
that's a crazy level of self-awareness where you're just like, I'm trapped. Sanity is in short supply. When's it going to happen? What's it going to feel like? What's it going to look like? Am I going to recognize it? And I don't think he does. I don't think he realizes he loses it, but we very much realize like, oh, there's no going back now.
Yeah, quite like literally toward at the end of the movie, you're like, oh, you did this now.
Complete Stockholm syndrome. He's just like, outside is unsafe now. It's crazy.
Yeah, completely bonkers. Yeah, I really like this screenplay. I think it's like one that could have been up for best screenplay. It's very strong. It's adapted from a novel. I don't know how to say his name because the last name is Abe, but it's probably pronounced Abe, or I'm not quite sure.
I think so.
They did I believe 3 films together. Kobo Abe and Teshi Gahara, they did 3 films together, and I'm like, man, I would love to read this book, see what the differences are, and see how kind of dark it gets. So, I'm very interested in this story, obviously, and what it has to offer, especially with the dialogue. Man, I thought it was wicked good. The score is also something else. It reminds me so much of stuff that's popular now in horror and thrillers and stuff. Just eerie as fuck. From movies like Hereditary to like The Master, it's like that whole spectrum. I feel like at some point was like Woman in the Dunes was something that they paid attention to.
Yeah, this is one of those. It's a building block movie. It's an originator that I'm sure many have either just blatantly stolen from or paid homage to, and I love that. I love when we get one of these where we can see the future.
Yes.
That is such a rewarding moment.
It's beautiful. It's partly why we started doing this podcast, was to find these gems that have lasted now for nearly 60 years and are still relevant to the filmmaking that we see today. That's the best stuff. So I love it. This score is by Toru Takamitsu, and man, oh man, good luck.
Yeah, this is some creepy shit.
Yeah.
I had to go with a moment that felt like the calm before the storm. And it's when he finally does escape the first time. And he's running through the dunes. Nothing in sight, just sand and depression. Nothing to see. There's no help. There's no road. He has no idea where to go. And the sun is setting. And you just have this vibe of like, he might die out there. And you don't know what to expect, but the music is so unsettling. It's like just eerie strings. And then he ends up in the quicksand and he's discovered by the villagers, and you're like, fuck.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. The music adds this insane level of tension. And I was blown away.
I love that moment because when he gets up there finally, it's like, what did you expect? You were just up there not that long ago working, and you knew there was nothing in sight. Did you think that the geography was going to change when you got up there? And it definitely comes into play the rest of the movie, right? He starts to lose his mind even more. He starts to grow facial hair. So we see that more time has passed after that happens. And the movie really gets like extremely unsettling after that, moving forward. And I will always remember those sounds. I know exactly what you're talking about, the strings when he's kind of just running around like a madman. Like, where do I go?
Like before that, we see the wind blow away his footprints. So it's like the road is gone. Like he can't get his bearings because he's been down there for like a couple weeks or something. And he has no idea where to go. and that's insanely frightening. And apparently, like they're not that far from Tokyo, which is even scarier. Like he's so close to civilization, but there's no way to get there.
Yeah, which way? It is frightening. It's also one of those movies where you can put yourself in their shoes and be like, I wouldn't do very well.
No, I would have snapped within a couple days. Like once I see there's no ladder, I'm out.
I fucking hate sand too. Like I fucking hate it. So that was its own character in this movie. Yeah. When you see the shots of the sand just kind of slowly gliding down, you're like, that like gave me anxiety, like pure anxiety. And when that happens in a movie, I'm like, how do they do that? How do they make a character out of this element that's all over the earth? They make it so scary. They make sand so scary.
The shots, the close-up shots of the sand on their flesh, their sweaty, gross, grimy flesh, and you're just like grossed out, and you're like it's like the sand is, consuming them so slowly.
Yeah.
Sanity first, body later. It's fucking wild, man. Yeah, this using the sand as a character is absolutely mind-boggling, and yeah, it is fucking freaky. I hate sand too. I don't like the way it feels, and I don't know what I'd do here.
Like a few hours at the beach is enough for me for the next 5 years with sand, as far as sand goes. So being stuck in a home where sand is coming down while I'm eating and drinking water and smoking and sleeping and all these things that our main character is doing, like, no thanks. I'd want to die so fast. I'd rather be in the lighthouse with Willem Dafoe's crazy ass than be around sand. Truly.
At least in that case, you're in for some entertainment before he eats you alive or whatever the fuck happens there.
Yeah. So, yeah. And they like eat beans and stuff, and like there seems to be some sort of food. Here I'm like, oh, man, there's just no hope. And it's from a perspective of a guy who's from Tokyo, this massive city where it's hustle and bustle and things are moving around all the time, to just stillness. It's like someone in New York City who for a living they take different trains and buses and different things to get to work, and then they go back home. It's like when COVID happened, they had to sit at home all day. It's like, the difference in that versus just sitting and not knowing what's going to happen next. It's really scary. It can really fuck somebody up.
Yeah. And if you opened your door, there's a 20-foot climb to society and you don't have a ladder.
And you don't know which way society is, because it's,
everyone there is constantly laughing at you, which is even scarier. Like no one there wants to help you. Everyone thinks you're a fucking dolt for falling for this. Like, yeah. Unreal.
Yeah, it's so good. God, I love this movie. We've spoken a bit about it, but my favorite music moment is the scene where there's this weird, odd sexual tension going on, and you're like, what's about to happen? And then they finally start to embrace, because he's wiping sand off of her shoulders, and he kind of takes her shirt off. And then the music that's playing when they start embracing, and he's kissing her neck, and you're like, you guys are probably so dirty, take a shower. But the music that's playing is so intense and so patient, and I was like sitting back in my chair, in my couch, like, someone help me. And I love that feeling when I'm watching a movie. I love that kind of hopelessness that you have as a viewer, where these two people, now this is a part of their life. They've broken that barrier of the physical barrier of touch. And now this is something that they do. And then when it comes back into play, when all the villagers force him, if he wants to come up the ladder, he has to sleep with her in front of them. What a gnarly, crazy scene with equally as dark and scary music going on. So there's just this sexual tension in the music when sexual tension is happening matches it. It's uncanny how well it matches, and that's weird and dark, but that's commitment to the movie, commitment to the story for sure.
Well, you had brought up earlier this idea that like the closeness of the camera makes you feel like an intruder. And especially in that scene, it's so intimate and you feel like a voyeur. Like you're not supposed to be watching this. It's too personal. And that's an insane connection that the cinematographer and the director made with the audience that is unheard of in a lot of projects. Like there's stuff where you feel uncomfortable, but there's never stuff where you feel like I'm not supposed to be here. I mean, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, I've never felt like that with anything else. Like this was like kind of looking away. Like, I don't know about this.
And I knew it was coming because of the, like a lot of the main poster has like the sand and whatnot, the name of the movie, but there are some posters and like the letterboxed picture show him and her kind of embracing. And you're like, there's probably going to be, it's called Woman in the Dunes. There's probably going to be a moment where a man and a woman connect in some way. But once the movie starts, you're like, I'm not ready for it. and you're in for a different ride than you thought you were once the movie gets going. And it's like an hour in. It's like an hour into the movie. It takes its time with that tension. And that's just great filmmaking.
Yeah. Well, he starts out thinking like, if I can, capture this lady, they have to let me out. And they're like, I love when they like lift him up halfway and then they drop him.
Yeah,
like,
that was hilarious. The sound it makes when he falls is so funny. Yeah. Just fuck off. Yeah. Yeah. Good shit. The music is amazing in this movie. And I was looking at, kind of the cast and crew here, because I watched those other two Eyzaguirre films, Pitfall and Face of Another. And it seems like, these guys work together a lot. Same cinematographer, composer. But this composer, Takemitsu, worked on a lot of Kurosawa movies. And so it gets me even more intrigued. Like he's the composer for the score of Ran. And I'm like, all right. Harakiri, he also did. So like, all right. I love these connections we make of these guys who work together. And it's like, here's a dude that clearly got people's attention with his music, multiple great filmmakers in Japan. So I'm fucking hyped to watch more stuff from this country.
It's not surprising that, he would have his people. I mean, that's how you crank out movie after movie after movie is you've got your crew who you can trust, who you can rely on, who know what you want. You don't have to really do much. You just make it happen. Like, yeah, so I get that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Love it, man. Here we go. I love this one. The Philip Seymour Hoffman Award is always a lot of fun. Typically we have more choices than just two, but this is really what we got. It's either Eiji Okada or Kyoko Kishida. That's really the two people we're looking at.
I do want to just point out, I looked on the IMDb and there's so few characters' names even listed. There's one guy who's like rumored to be in the movie. It's like, he might be in this. We don't know. Like, what? Unreal.
Yeah. Robert Dunham. On IMDb, it has a question mark and says rumored.
It'd be a fun like journey. Funny. Like find him. Like, was he in this?
Yeah. Or it'd be fun to find all the other rumored people on IMDb. Like, who else is rumored and in what movies?
It's so crazy.
I love it.
I went with Kyoko Kishida as the woman.
That was my pick too. Good Lord.
She never even gets a name. She's just the woman.
Yeah.
And her entire character is so bizarre. She's just resigned herself to being the woman who shovels sand for the village. Like that's her whole lot in life. And she doesn't understand why the other guy would not want to be a part of this life. Like, this is it. This is all that living is for. And her, like when they're first having dinner, she seems nice, but also really unstable.
Mm-hmm.
And you just wonder, like, when's the other shoe going to drop? Who's screwing over who here? Like, what's going on? And then as the movie progresses, they kind of flip flop. Like she starts becoming more sane. He gets crazier.
Yeah.
And it's just insane to watch these two bounce off each other and her whole demeanor just going from, turning on a dime to being, nutball to saint to mother to wife to bather. It's like, what? She's wearing so many hats.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's really eerie performance. And when she sings, I was like so captivated, but so freaked out when she would sing while she's, making some sort of food or just, I don't know what she's doing, folding stuff, shoveling shit. I love when he says to her, are you shoveling sand to live, or are you living to shovel sand? I love that line so much because he's like, you're a fucking freak, and she's like, this is my job, this is what I do, because I give sand to them. They give it out, and it provides the village with water, provides the village with other supplies, and like that's what I do. That's how I serve the village, serve the people. And that's valiant and all, but good God almighty, there's got to be some screws loose. And then you find out that her husband and daughter are buried probably right under where they're sleeping, and that's also real fucking weird. But her demeanor, her facial expressions, her eyes, her voice, I was just like, I'm never going to forget this character.
It's the casual way she mentions that her husband and daughter are gone. She's like, yep, they just got swept up. And he's like, oh my God. And she's like, them's the breaks. It's like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah. Sometimes when you're out here, living the dune life, you get swallowed up by storms. That's just what happens. Like, good night.
Sometimes you eat the bar and sometimes the bar eats you.
Yeah.
A line I really liked from her is when she tells him that her greatest fear is waking up alone. It's like, it's a lot of pressure to put on a guy that you helped kidnap.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
God, her whole character, like, you couldn't, if I tried for a million years, I couldn't write a character like this.
No. And I love female characters in these kinds of movies. It offers such a different perspective and a different kind of power, and she's fucking going for it. Kyoko is really going for it. At times I was like kind of rooting for her towards the end, especially when you find out about the pregnancy and you're like, oh my God, no, like, hope she's okay. And you remember the first hour and a half of the movie and you're like, I don't know, man, I'm kind of mixed up here.
Yeah, you almost start to feel the Stockholm syndrome. You almost start to be like, well, if they're happy, I'm happy. And then you have to remind yourself, like, no, this is forced labor. Like, get the fuck out of there. Like, you have to start keep convincing yourself, like, this isn't right. But the movie keeps trying to make you think maybe it's okay. It's strange. This is an aggressive watching experience. It really is.
Yeah, you can see why I fell in love with it. It's a one of a kind experience, and it's all these things that are in play at once. The screenplay is great, music's great, both the lead performances are wonderful. The sand is freaky as fuck, and then we have our deacons here. The best scene. I think there's multiple choices. When the movie ended, mine definitely was like, okay, this is mine. But what'd you go with?
I went with the insane, weird sexual ritual that the village tries to make the entomologist participate in.
The drums? Oh my God.
Because it wasn't just, have sex with the lady and we'll let you up. It was like, we're going to watch you like it's a circus. There's going to be this, like, people with weird masks, and she's not going to want to do it. And it was turning into a rape scene. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, we're about to lose all, sympathy for this guy. And it was so crazy. It was like an acid trip. And it was for him to go to the ocean for like 20 minutes a day. Yeah, that was his prize. He gets to look at the ocean for 20 minutes. They'll probably make it 10 and then kick him back in the hole. It's crazy. And I kept expecting him to, like, kick the sand and they all fall in. I was hoping that was going to happen. Like, I thought we were at the end and he's going to trap all these fuckers with him. And then that didn't happen. And I was like, God damn it.
And then, woman in the dunes too. Yeah. People in the dunes. Yeah. I'd watch that. Yeah. God. Yeah. That is when that was happening, I kind of, there's not like a lull to me in this movie. I thought it was all really good, but I was kind of like, I think the movie needs this like wicked, dark, nasty kind of what the fuck, almost eyes wide shut. Like, whoa, what are we doing here? Like, whoa. or is this actually happening on the screen right now?
We need to have a moment of absolute change where we
Yeah.
go from this entomologist who came here to study bugs is now willing to rape a woman in front of villagers so he can have some outdoor time. Like,
Yeah.
that is what this experience has driven him to. He
Yeah,
says
like-
it like, you know, we're already living like animals. What's the difference?
Yeah,
Like-
yeah, he's saying that while he's like chasing her around. And there's just some crazy, amazing stuff going on as far as, you know, horror goes right there. The drums are like, wow, just boom, 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 boom. The people kind of cackling in the masks. And then there's a shot overhead from their perspective of the house, the hut, and she's inside, and he's trying to get her to go outside so that they can watch. And there's shadows, and there's that light because they all have like these lights that are shining down on them like they're on a stage. And I was like, this is Hiroshi Teshigahara is like, this is some amazing filmmaking. Like, who's willing to go to those lengths? And I respected that scene just for being, like you said, being a clear change in the movie.
You know what it reminded me of so much? In Sweeney Todd, when Helena Bonham Carter is telling the story of Todd's wife, and she's at the party, and the judge rapes her at the party, and everyone's just standing around them, laughing and cackling in their weird masks. I wonder if Burton was channeling this.
I like that. Good call.
Yeah,
good call. Sweeney Todd getting me connected to Woman in the Dunes. So that's a good shout out. I haven't seen Sweeney Todd in a while, so I really like that. I think Woman in the Dunes has multiple things going on that you can point to modern movies and be like, they probably saw that, you know.
Yeah.
I think The Lighthouse being number one for sure. Two people losing their minds. One of them that probably already has lost their mind. Willem Dafoe and Kyoko Kishida. So good. That was my Deakins until the movie ended. Was that scene? The finale of the movie is my Deakins. When he is out and goes back and is like, oh, I can escape. There's time to escape tomorrow. It's fine. And he wants to perfect that technique with the water.
Yeah.
I was like, this movie fucking rules. This story is so awesome. This is so fucking messed up and out there. And then we see the police report for the end of the movie is the police report where it says that he's been missing for 7 years and is classified as a disappearance. I got chills and then it went the end and I was like, oh, I was just like, cinema. I almost started clapping, but Brianna was asleep. So I was like, I just did light claps like I'm at a fucking golf tournament. Like, let's go. And I was like, I can't fucking wait for this episode because that was one of the coolest finales, darkest, weirdest, fucked up finales I've ever seen in a movie in my life. It nailed, because I was wondering, I was like, how is this going to end? What is the end game here? What's the landing? Are they going to nail it? This could make the movie from a 10 to a 9 for me, or even to an 8 if you don't really nail that shit. And it exceeded my expectations. And I was so happy with how fucked up it was. And yeah, when he's like looking at the water, like, it got a little higher, like I can find time to escape tomorrow. Like and then 7 years go by. It's just one of the most incredible things I've ever seen, man. I love this movie to death. It's immediately one of my favorite 60s movies, right up there with, Psycho and Rosemary's Baby, shit like that. That's just real fucked up. Yeah, I can't say enough about my experience with this, and I will be watching it again someday. That's for sure.
Yeah, the balls to end this movie like that with no closure, just being like, he never took that step. I mean, when they leave the ladder down and he walks towards it, when he grabs the ladder, it almost looked like he was trying to pull it down.
Yeah,
like he was like,
on
I gotta
accident.
get rid of it. Yeah, like this, I don't want it's not like he doesn't want to escape. It's like he doesn't want the opportunity. He doesn't want to have to make that decision anymore.
Yeah, like it's too heavy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like he walks around for a bit and, it's like he goes where it's safe and warm. Like, Jesus Christ, what have they done to this man?
Yeah, they've completely robbed him of any humanity. Yeah, it's great. It's a really, really amazing ending. And I think that's the best bit of his performance is how whacked out he looks at the end of the movie. Just this guy who, yeah, again, went to study bugs. And when he goes down the ladder the first time at the beginning of the movie, he says out loud, "This is quite an adventure." And then,
You're not wrong.
How foreshadowing. Yeah, that 7 years later, he'd still be there.
Yeah, it's a nihilistic ending. I have mixed feelings about him. Like, you really got to earn it. You got to earn the right to just spit in my face at the end of a movie.
Yeah,
but this film did. This film earned it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, a happy ending was not going to happen. It's just
no
not
thanks.
realistic.
No thanks. Yeah,
someone's got to shovel that sand.
Yeah,
they're certainly not going to do it.
Yeah, what are we going to do if the sand keeps going into the hut? The hut's going to, how am I going to know if the water keeps, rising? I got to know.
that like justification of like, well, if I leave, no one's going to test this water theory, and I can't have that.
Yeah. Woof. What am I just going to go back to Tokyo and forget about this? Come on, call me crazy, but
that's kind of just like spiritual lobotomy that he got. It's wild.
Oh, I love it. I fucking love it, man. This is a blast. This has been some of my favorite award giving because again, we both seen this movie for the first time just last night, and so it always gives you like an extra oomph to kind of bring something special, your own perspective on it, because we've done movies that we've both seen 50 times on this show, and this is just different. I like doing both. Trust me, I love doing the Toy Stories and the Lord of the Rings and the massive movies that we both care about, but there's something different and cool about doing a foreign Japanese 60s movie that is somehow like right up our alley.
Yeah, the blind watches are always my favorite on all of our shows. When I don't know what to expect, I always love getting to talk about it because it's it's fresh and it's new to me, and that's a cool conversation to have. I love that.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here. So this is great. Before we get out of here, I do want to just kind of look at, this is Oscar Sunday, so let's look at how Woman in the Dunes got on this show. The 37th Academy Awards, Woman in the Dunes was up for Best Foreign Language Film against The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. It's from France. I'm not really sure how to say that. Israel's Salah, Sweden's Raven's End, and the winner from Italy, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, which is a movie I've always wanted to see. So that's on my radar for sure. If it beat Woman in the Dunes, then I need to know how.
Yeah, for sure. I know nothing about any of these films. It's the one category every year where I'm almost completely in the dark, unless there's like one that everyone's been talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like Parasite, of course, or what's like an older one that you kind of know, or like even like a Fellini movie. When you hear that name or Godard, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, I kind of gonna understand what this
one
is
that
about.
comes to mind, like that was very popular, is City of God.
Oh, love that movie. Yeah. Good call. Yeah. Good call. Yeah, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow is from. It's funny. It's from 1963. So this is competing 2 years after. This is Vittorio De Sica. He's a big name, and it's got Sophia Loren in it. She's okay. Yeah. So it's a movie that I know. I guess I've got to see this. It's something that I feel like is right in my wheelhouse. It's like 3 short stories into one movie, and kind of has different themes going on. So I'd love to see it. I like Sophia a lot. I think she's one of the more interesting performers from that era. So, and it won Best Foreign Language Film. So I always want to see those winners, and maybe we'll do it on the show one day. You never know. But Woman in the Dunes, again, weird stuff going on with the release date of when it actually comes out, in the United States. So it didn't compete for the other categories until the following ceremony, the 38th Academy Awards, and it was just up for Best Director for Hiroshi Teshigahara. He went against David Lean for Dr. Zhivago, John Schlesinger for Darling, fucking William Wyler for The Collector, and the winner, Robert Weiss, for The Sound of Music. So it's a big group. For him to even get in there is a big deal.
That is huge. Those are
Yeah.
giant names for the
Yeah.
60s. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
him. I would
And
consider that a
Robert,
personal triumph, even if I didn't win.
I agree. I agree with you. I was going to say kind of the same thing. I mean, Robert Weiss wasn't going to lose that shit. So like Sound of Music fucking triumphed through this ceremony and obviously won the big one. So cool that it got there. Now, I do wish there were a couple other nominations. I think Best Actress. I think Kyoko Kishida has a case. I think they really both do. I think Screenplay has a case you can make, but I think the main one is cinematography. I think cinematography because not only cinematography, but they divvied it up back in the day. They divvied it up by black and white and color. It's like, all right, there's 10 fucking movies up for best cinematography. One in the Dunes. I haven't seen these other movies. Ship of Fools, In Harm's Way, King Rat, Morituri, and Apache Blue. Haven't seen these movies, but Conrad Hall, my guy, he's one of the guys up there, so I'm not taking him away. But I do think you got to put Woman in the Dunes in this category. He's just the coolest part of the film.
Yeah, you're right. The way this movie's filmed is unique and powerful, and we talked a lot about how much it affected us on like a personal level. So yeah, this deserved to be there 100% for cinematography. I would also throw in best score.
Oh yeah.
I would even think production design. I mean, that shack is pretty much where we're at exclusively, but it's a powerful character in itself. And yeah, I think this could have made way more of a splash.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to one day do a proper Best Picture showdown with The Sound of Music, Darling, Dr. Zhivago, Ship of Fools, and 1,000 Clowns to see if Woman in the Dunes deserves a spot over those movies.
Yeah,
that's always interesting.
I'm particularly interested in The Collector. That's a film I've been after for quite some time because just the history and legend of that film is dark as shit, and I wanna experience it for myself. I just have to find it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, man. Yeah, that's why we do this show. We find those gems and give them a whirl. I believe this is also the year that Cat Ballou came out. I think that's Sterling Hayden's only Oscar nomination. Let me make sure about that. He'd be, I think. I'm not 100%.
Yeah,
I like
Lee
that.
Marvin, Cat Ballou, best actor. So yeah.
Okay, Lee Marvin. Yeah. Lee Marvin's only, and he won. Okay, yeah. I think that's a movie that I've always wanted to talk about at great length. You got him beating Richard Burton, Laurence Olivier, Rod Steiger, and Oscar Werner. It's a cool group. Interesting. Actor in a supporting role. Yeah, I could look at these all day. Just kind of fuck around. So it's always fun to go back after doing a ceremony and doing a movie like Woman in the Dunes that we both liked, responded to. It's fun to go back and do a Best Picture showdown and kind of rank it up against the ones we're going to talk about on that episode. So that'll be fun. One day we'll do that.
Yeah, that'll be a blast. There's some heavy hitters culturally at this ceremony that I have to cross off my list. And there's also some negatives. I know like Laurence Olivier's Othello, tough watch these days.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good on Laurence Olivier, especially that one.
But I'm so over his Shakespeare. Like I've seen enough. Like I don't really get the legend of Laurence Olivier.
Neither do I, man. You and me both.
No. But yeah, there's like Cat Ballou I really want to see. The Spy Who Came in from the Cold. I just bought that. So I'm going to check that out.
Nice.
The Collector, obviously. And Dr. Zhivago, also one of those like epic, David Lean was the king of the epic in the 60s. And I everything I've seen from him, I have loved. Virgin of the River Kwai, Lawrence of Arabia, great films, incredible films.
Oh, yeah, Lawrence, man.
I'm sure Zhivago is going to be a blast.
Yeah, that's definitely that one and Sound of Music. It seems like those are the two like heavy hitters from that year that kind of went head to head.
Oh yeah, big time.
So yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun one day, man. I love doing these movies though. Like this is the coolest thing about this show is we can do those heavy hitters and we can do these ones that are up in only one category. So I love that about this. Next week we'll be doing a movie that made a huge splash at the Oscars, the 90th Academy Awards to be exact, and it's Jordan Peele's Get Out. the first black man to win best screenplay. So not only that, but he's up for other stuff. The movie's up for Best Picture. It's looked at as one of the best horror movies of the 21st century. I vividly remember seeing this in theaters and people just being so excited, being so excited to have a movie that felt like it was, just way different than what we're used to, as far as the representation goes. The type of storytelling was necessary. It felt like it was in a time where I think Americans thought that racism was in some way fixed because of who was president, right? And then then Trump becomes president. It's like, oh shit, And I love when filmmakers and creators remind you that shit seeps in when you least expect it. It will seep in, it'll take over, and it'll fuck up relationships and fuck up, things that are going on. So I love what Get Out kind of represents, right? I think it's going to be sadly applicable to our society for a very long time. And I think we get a lights out performance from Daniel Kaluuya in this movie, a star-making performance. And, obviously that guy is going to be in Jordan Peele's movie next week, Nope. And he's, the guy who won an Oscar for Judas and the Black Messiah. So playing Fred Hampton. I'm super excited to get into the individuals that make the movie, get into that ceremony is going to be a lot of fun to get into because we've both seen a ton of 2017 movies. We're going to talk about Get Out, Nope, Us, talk about Jordan Peele's legacy as it stands so far. So I'm super excited, man. It's going to be a good one. It's one of those kind of modern classics that we've had circled for a long time. We're just waiting for the right moment, and Jordan Peele's back. So it feels right.
Yeah. I would have voted for Obama a third time.
Yeah. Man, that performance
the most patronizing movie quote in history.
Him and Catherine Keener are amazing in that movie. They're too fucking scary. Yeah.
Get Out was the third episode of the Filmgazm podcast back when I was just doing it by myself. And then we followed it with Us, which was the first one that we did together. I love that it was us. Like that's just funny. Yeah. But it's a film that Get Out has been like this is where it should be talked about over here. And
I agree.
I'm excited to watch it for the first time in about 3 years. So yeah, it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, love that movie. But on Wednesday, before all that, Wednesday on Filmgazm, episode 198, we're approaching that special 200 where we're going to be doing some cool shit for you guys. We'll be covering Friday the 13th. I can't believe we've not talked about this movie for this long.
There are two titans of horror that I've been deliberately saving for a special occasion. Jason Voorhees is one of them. And if you have any horror love at all, you know what next week's is going to be too.
Yeah, it's a back-to-back. Yeah.
But yeah, Caleb is a diehard Friday the 13th fan. Like maybe his one of his favorite movies of all time. This movie's sacred to him. So I hope I like it. It's been a long time since I watched this. And if I hate it, it's gonna be an awkward episode. So
or really funny. Yeah.
And then Colton will also be there, giving his 2 cents on Friday the 13th. The gauntlet has been the three of us for the most part. And it's been a blast. So yeah, this is a long time coming.
Fuck yeah, the train keeps rolling. And then on Friday, Congo. episode 29.
Yep, going to the Michael Crichton well in between Jurassic Park and the Lost World. They decided to make Congo. It didn't work out. I think the movie's got problems. I'm a bit of a fan. I love the cast. See Bruce Campbell and Tim Curry in the same movie is a treat. So I'm going in optimistic. I'm looking forward to that.
Hell yeah, man. That's good. That's good that you'll be ready to kind of stand for it in certain moments. So that'll be fun. That show's doing well. It's rolling. Almost episode 30 already. Been doing it for over 6 months already. So that's really crazy. And we're going to keep this thing going. So yeah, Friday the 13th, Congo and Get Out is our docket this week. Crazy bunch, but we're going to have fun with it. So, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Filmgazm. check out our website. Got reviews up nearly every day, and keep watching movies, guys. We'll see y'all on Wednesday.